Hello, good evening, Dr. Perry.
Good evening. How are you?
How are you? I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Okay, do you mind if I join you today
That's fine.
while you make up?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Do you prefer if I call you Ernest or Dr. Perry?
Let's try Ernest this time.
Ernest, okay. Jadi hari ini pemirsa, saya sedang bersama Dr. Ernest L. Perry, yang merupakan wakil dekan dari program pascasarjana di Universitas Missouri atau University of Missouri in USA. Dan hari ini kita akan berbincang mengenai digital journalism dan juga kurikulum di bidang journalism studies. So today, Ernest, I'm gonna ask you about digital journalism and how it affects to the curriculum of journalism studies both in America or in my country, in Indonesia. So I've heard that you used to be the sport journalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 15 years.
Right.
For so long time. So and now you are an associate dean in your university, and so I guess you have experience about the transition of being in printed journalism and the digital journalism. So for you, what is actually digital journalism?
What we would consider to be digital journalism is news that is put together and then provided to consumers that they can use either on their smartphones or on tablets or on their computers, and they can download that. They can either read that information right away or view that information right away, or they can download it and view it and look at it later on.
So technology is the one that important in digital journalism, right?
Yes, the technology is important, the way in which you distribute that information, but it's still, the content is still very much important, yes.
So for you, technology, content is more important than technology?
Well, yes, the content, because if you don't have the content, it doesn't really matter what technology you use. I mean, you can basically put pictures up of anyone, but if that's content in and of itself. When you talk about news, you're providing information, and that's the key component of the content that you're distributing through technology.
So the sentence from Marshall McLuhan about medium is the message is wrong, or?
I think medium is part of the message.
Part of the
message.
Okay.
You have to have the message. You need to have the medium in which to distribute that, and so digital is a part of that. But I mean, you still have other ways in which to distribute that. I mean, newspapers are still around. That's one way of doing it. Radio, and in certain cases, is seen as digital in the way in which it's distributed now. And then you also have what we call basically basic television, and that in and of itself can also be seen as digital.
Okay, so how much this digital journalism and the technology itself affects to the curriculum of journalism studies for you?
Well, you have to be, you're thinking about how are you, once you're putting that content together, you're thinking about how is that going to be distributed, how are people going to view that information. So if they're looking at it on their smartphones, you're going to present that content in a certain way that fits on the phone, and that people can easily access it. The same way with the tablet, or if someone is downloading or streaming something, how is that going to be presented later on in another fashion. So length, how long you have that piece of video matters in that format. The wording, and how long is the piece going to be on a particular smartphone or tablet, that sort of thing. So there are certain aspects of the content itself that when you're writing it and you're producing it, that has to change depending on the actual digital content, digital distribution that you're going to use.
In University of Missouri itself, what is the changing? What is maybe modules that depend of technology, of digital journalism or technology?
Well, one of the things that we have now is we have a documentary journalism program. And a lot of the material that comes through that is digitally based because of the way in which they're distributed. And so those longer forms of journalism that tell a longer story or pieces or parts of a longer story that sort of meld into one and really go deeply into an issue. So that one is probably going to be better distributed through film or through some sort of digital streaming or that sort of thing. So students are cognizant when they're putting those pieces together of how they're using that. And then so say if you're working in newspapers, okay, you know you're going to have a deadline for the printed product to go out, but that story is probably going to go online first. So you're going to have certain aspects of that story that you're going to tell at different points with updated information, and then the full story probably won't go out until the next morning's paper.
Okay. So, for you, what modules or I've seen your presentation this morning in Faculty of Communication Unpad Bandung, and the 20 modules that you presented to us uh, are really interesting for me, and for you, for digital journalism, like nowadays, what modules that you want to provide more, or what things that you want to add in the curriculum of journalism studies in University of Missouri?
Well, I think one of the things that we're really working with our students on is actual storytelling and engagement with people. In other words, allowing them to tell their story without us interjecting or putting our own spin on it. So allowing people to tell their story from their lived experience and how they live their own daily lives. So that is a lot of what we talk to our students about when they're putting together their journalism. And there are ways in which you can do that that fit into the various technology distribution outlets that we have. So that's one main module that we've been working with at the School of Journalism.
Like research based on experience?
It's based on, yes, it's based on research and understanding that people want to hear how other people live. Or what other people are experiencing around any issue. I mean, you could be talking about healthcare, you could be talking about the environment, you could be talking about people's living situations and that sort of thing. So you're still talking about issues, but you're talking about the issues and how they matter to that particular person in their particular life, and not necessarily a policy or something like that. You can bring the policy into it, but how does that policy actually impact their day-to-day living?
Okay, so so many students that not basically journalism students wants to be journalists. For you, is that can be or?
Oh yes, it's possible. It's
Possible.
I mean, yes, it's possible. I mean, we have students who come from various other areas. We have students who may have been studying sociology, or they may be studying a science like, say, biology or chemistry or something, or mathematics for that instance. And they're interested in coming into journalism to say, hey, how can I better tell stories about science? How can I better tell stories about the psychology or the sociology of a particular person? Journalism and communication can help them to be able to tell those stories.
Okay. So, what is the most important capability that graduated student have to be a journalist?
I would say for any student, whether you're talking about a graduate student or undergraduate student, the most important thing is the ability to listen. The ability to listen and allow people to tell their stories, and then to interact with them in an authentic way, but then also to understand, or to try to gain some knowledge and understanding that you can then relay to others, because one of the main things about being a journalist is to inform your audience and inform your audience about others and what others are doing.
So this is the last question. You have to choose which one is the best, the journalists that have basic in journalism studies or not? Come on.
I would say that someone who is interested in telling other people's stories really need to be trained and have understanding in how to actually do that. Because it's different there's a difference between just sticking a microphone in front of someone's face and asking them a question and engaging them in conversation. Journalists should be engaging people in conversations that can then be disseminated to a larger audience and not just peppering them or pushing questions on them.
So everyone can be journalists.
I wouldn't say everybody could be journalists because some people want to monopolize the conversation, and journalists shouldn't be doing that.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy in Indonesia, especially in Bandung. So, how long you still be here?
I'll be here I'll be in Indonesia for another 3 or 4 days.
3-4 days.
Yes.
Okay, so enjoy your time in Indonesia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Terima kasih pemirsa, itu tadi bincang-bincang kita bersama dengan Dr. Ernest Perry. Semoga dapat bermanfaat dan sampai jumpa. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Next, the next video.